Good morning, Bucs fans. It is AJ Turn Up here. We are at Bucs Report. It is football Monday night playoffs. The Buccaneers against the Dallas Cowboys. And I know Bucs fans out there, we are ready to get it going. The most important, the best news of today is Ryan Jensen has been activated. No, that is not an illusion. That is not a lie. That is straight up facts. That was announced about 20 minutes ago. He is activated. Now, I'm going to say this. Let's give a shout out to Bowles. I know he has taken a lot of criticism, as he has deserved this season, because he did underperform. But I'm going to keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck here. Bowles played chess in this one. You know why? Because he kept it. Man, I guarantee you the Cowboys were not truly expecting him to return. And he did it at the last minute. He will play. There's no reason to not to activate him. Now, what does this do for the Bucs offense, as you say? Oh, immense things. It's going to immensely bring out the best of this line and bring one thing that we haven't had is true, consistent stability. So, center, Jensen. It's not only what Jensen can do on the field, it's what he can do mentally for his players. If Hainsey will go back to his natural position, I don't think a lot of Bucs fans realize Hainsey was thrusted into this position at center when he's more of a guard. Now, with that being said, Jensen is going to bring toughness, nastiness to this line. Hainsey goes back and plays a natural position. And what is that going to do for everybody else? You know, hopefully Byron still doesn't get, predictable run happy. But if you want to run, we can now because Jensen is great as a run stuffer. That will help the offense get more balance. That's also, again, I say, he's going to know how to, if we need to adjust and make plays happen, that is going to also make Brady comfortable. We all know this entire season, sometimes Brady had, flashback moments of getting scared of being hit. Can you imagine with Jensen being back in the game? That is going to give Tom Brady so much comfortable to read through his progressions. That means that Brady is going to see the field and just shred this Cowboys secondary, because let's be real, their secondary is injured and they're not that good anyway. Trayvon, we all know about Diggs, but he is a hit or miss as well. The Buccaneers, we have been hearing so much this entire, for the past few days that on paper, the Cowboys are a better team. Give me a break. That is bullshit. Do not listen to that nonsense. First of all, our receiving core is far superior to them. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Julio Jones. Then we got Cade Otton in there. Then in the backfield, you have Fournette and Rachaad White. Rachaad White is another Pollard as well, and Fournette is a better Ezekiel Elliott. So I don't care what nobody says. Zeke is not who he is. He's been washed. CeeDee Lamb is their only number one guy. And let's be real. He is a B to sometimes B plus average receiver at best. He does his damage typically in the slot. We know this. Again, the Buccaneers are, and again, on defense, the Buccaneers as a unit are better. The difference between having a lot of talent, single player talent, and unit is a big difference. When you play as a unit, that's what wins championships for the most part. If you go back and look at Belichick, his defense, he didn't always have the best players at their positions, but as a unit, they were good. So as a unit here, I will give Bowles that as well. You got Carl Nassib returning, Vita Vea, Hicks, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield, who is basically will be an elite safety by next season. We have so much going into this game. The Bucs are going to be healthy. The Bucs will be healthy on. This is the healthiest that we've been so far. I cannot believe this. So we actually are better than this team. And I already said it again. If the Bucs keep the Cowboys under 80 yards rushing, the Bucs will blow them out. It's not that they'll beat them. They will blow them out. You know why I say this? Because that will put the game in Dak Prescott's hands. And we all have seen how he folds. Dak Prescott is not that guy. We know this. He wants to be the hero so bad, but he does not have the skills to make that happen. So this is what will happen if they run under 80 yards. So another thing, Dak, if they can't, I think they'll take some shots because this is the playoffs, but for the most part, everybody knows what the Cowboys' game plan is going to be against the Bucs is to keep Brady off the field, which means slowly dink and dunk us to death, probably, if they can't run the rock. So that is what's going to happen here. But the Bucs should win this game just because they have a lot more momentum and the pressure is more on Dallas. And man, for the past few days, Dallas, I can see why nobody likes Dallas Cowboy fans. I can't, because they're so delusional, unrealistic. It's like, well, he's going to finally break it. How? He's not just going to magically come out of nowhere. The only way to be real, let's be real, if it's going to be the coaching staff, it's going to be up to them if they want this team to win. That is our only true nemesis. Byron Leftwich has got to just call a complete game. Just give me an average play call on offense, and we got this. Let's look at some of the comments. So we have Jim Melvin here. I know Jensen has been practicing, but I'm concerned about rust. Slowly but surely. I think for the most part, they'll start to get him warmed up with running plays because he is a mauler when it comes to the run game. So that will help. That will definitely help. But everybody else will be fine. And remember, Jensen can also give them pointers on how to pass protect. So that's going to be good. So Buck Skull Gang says that's going to be okay. Yes. Yeah, the only thing that's missing is Shaq Barrett. And Slick, I already told you, he had only produced 3 sacks before his injury. So with that being said, the defense as a unit will get the job done. I do hope that Bowles, when it comes to his defense, mix it up. We don't want to always bend too much because eventually we will break. You don't want your defense tired. So in the beginning, try to get the Cowboys offense off the field really quick, the way that they do the Bucs offense. If you can get 3 and outs really sooner than later, that is going to put a lot of pressure on the Cowboys defense, and they might fall apart. Parsons is not the same. He is still injured. And let's be real. Micah Parsons is a very immature talent at this point. He's really good, but mentally and right here, he's unstable. He's too worried about what other people are saying, and that is going to be his downfall. Because if he starts to play like bad, I don't know if he can get out of it. Sometimes a lot of Cowboy players, because they're always in the limelight, they get in their own way mentally because they want to be. They're trying to be what the media is telling them that they think they are, and they're not there yet. So with that being said, though, I honestly think that the Buccaneers can get it going. And we're going to be bringing in a special guest right now. It's Candace Martino. But before, let me give you a lot of her accolades. We are very excited to have her here. She played basketball for the University of Tampa. She is an award-winning sports anchor and a reporter in TV, Masters of Communication from Syracuse University. And she recently left local TV to become a sports content creator. That's what's up. And it is our privilege. We are going to be welcoming Candace Martino. Good morning, Miss Candace Martino. How are you doing?
What's going on, my guy? How are you? I'm doing well.
Doing well myself. Very
It's game
hyped.
day, so we're ready.
I just got back from the gym. I had to work out for this. I'm acting like I'm in the game. That's how good I feel today. How about you?
Nice and early, getting the work in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Have to get it in. So I just want to say welcome again. And can you just give us a little more information about yourself? Tell us exactly some of your passions and why are you passionate about this Bucs team today?
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, right, I graduated from the University of Tampa in 2017. I'm from Pittsburgh, right? So I do love the Steelers, but I love the Bucks too, and I'll explain why. So my first gig really in college was with the Bucks, right? I did the Bucks media for 4 years, game day. I did Bucks training camp. They really thrust me into the culture back when winning wasn't really relevant, right? So I like to say, even though I moved to the area, I'm a transplant. I was a transplant then. I've kind of been with them for a little bit now. Went on to local television, right? 3 TV markets. Finished up in South Carolina not too long ago in October. But television 2.0 is here, right? And it's social media, the reach, the engagement, right? The audience, the community that we can build as opposed to local TV. It's here. It's now. And I really think you guys are doing some good stuff over there at Bucks Report, and I'm here for the ride.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And man, you were just thrusted into football anyway. You're from a football state. That's typically one of those
Yeah.
rare northern states that is football. So, and
Yeah,
man,
if you actually check it out, I wanted to switch it because I'm actually home in Pittsburgh right now. But I got Ben Roethlisberger when we won the Super Bowl, and I got Sidney Crosby. But believe me, I love Tampa Bay just as much as I love Pittsburgh.
no, I can dig it. Wow. So, man, so let me ask you this then, because I know we're going to be talking later on this evening. So I just want to give you a few questions, and you can think about them later on. Typically, when you are in football, are you more for the offensive side, defensive side? Who is your Bucks players that you expect to shine tonight? And give me like 3 things you detest about Cowboy Nation.
All right. So first and foremost, I think Mike Evans. He's been due all season. Obviously, we saw that against the Panthers not too long ago, but they're down. The secondary is down with the Cowboys, and I think that's an area that Mike Evans can expose tonight, and that he will need to. Right, especially you got Micah Parsons, linebacker. He's coming at Tom Brady. You got to get the passes off fast, and I think Mike Evans has the speed to get out there and go. And I think he's going to be a major, major playmaker. The difference. He will be the difference. I know they're kind of keen in on Chris Godwin. I don't know if you heard that little clip with Jerry Jones, not even knowing who Chris Godwin, is, which is insane. But I really just think Mike Evans is going to, lead us to the promised land tonight. As far as not liking the Cowboys, it goes back deep with me, especially with Pittsburgh. I don't like the fan base. They always every year, right? They think they're so good and they end up getting knocked out. I think this year is going to be no different. You got Dak Prescott who's struggling right now. I like him. I like his story. I really like that, what he did for the franchise and kind of gave them hope, right? Since Romo, but his interceptions lately, right? I mean, 15 career high. I think the Bucks they're gonna have a field day with that. He's throwing to the right areas, right? But he's just not hitting the guys. So I think Dak Prescott's probably a weak spot with them this year. Really tonight, I think it's gonna be a good one for the Buccaneers defense.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%. And the simple fact, as you said, the Cowboy Nation, they have a little too much delusional arrogance to it
It's
for
too
my
much.
taste because but when I break down the game logically, that's what I love to do. Like, no, despite me being a Bucks fan, I try to always I have a logic cap that I put on, and I try to be as fair as possible. But dealing with Cowboy fans these past few days, man, I'm sitting here like,
Yeah.
okay, so we're not well, Brady's old. What does that have to do with Brady not being? He has experience too.
Correct.
Dak does not have it, and I'm okay. I like Dak; he's decent. But the storyline for me, I could care less about it. Is if you can play or not. And
Right.
right now, you said he's not doing so well. And I made a predicament earlier. Not a prediction earlier, Candace. I said if the Buccaneers can keep the Cowboys from rushing under 80 yards, the Bucks are going to blow them out. That's a
Hey,
hot take.
I like that take. And it's gonna be tough. I mean, you're dealing with Ezekiel Elliott, right, and Tony, right, in the backfield.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough. If the defense can stay ahead early and they can contain that run and they can shut
Mhm.
them down, the Bucs really are going to have a great opportunity to win the game.
Oh, absolutely. So, in your opinion, who are you? Okay? Who's going to have an easier time doing their job? Offensive side of the Bucks or defensive side of the Bucks?
I think the defense. And here's why. Throughout the season, they're the reason why the Bucs are really here in the first place. I think towards the end they probably got tired. I would imagine in the locker room they were a little bit going back and forth, waiting for the offense to pick it up. I think the defense, they're going to have an easier time tonight. I just think it's their bread and butter. Everybody's healthy. I know there's a couple listed as doubtful and questionable, but you know, I think they'll be ready. I think the offense, again, it's a banged up offensive line. That's been the story all year long, right? We can't even talk about that enough because you got to watch out for Micah Parsons. I actually covered him when I was at Penn State, one of my former markets, and this kid, he is so special. And I know, this is a Bucks podcast, but I gotta give a shout out to him because he was so special to cover both on the field and off the field. They have to contain him. I mean, if the offensive line doesn't hold him off, he's gonna have a field day. He will. I mean, he is a playmaker. And, he quoted earlier in the week, this is where legends are made. And he's right. I mean, he has a chance to stop Tom Brady, but do I think it'll happen? I don't, because Brady gets the ball off fast. It's no secret. We all know that. Again, it's going to be the targets. Can they get off fast enough and get open?
That's right. Well, I'm sure. Are you aware that Jensen is coming back?
Yes, I did see that, which that was a big concern. I think that's a silver lining, especially with the injuries, right, on the O-line. So
Mhm.
with Hainsey, right? I mean, we didn't know with the way he's listed. So I think, Bucks fans are going to be really pumped up about this one. Did they make it official? Did they announce it before we got on here
Yeah,
or?
yeah. When I checked the media, and this is to I also looked also at Joe Bucks fan. He's another they're another
Okay. Okay.
Bucks comment Bucks podcast. They had made they said it like I think 30 minutes ago that he is, and I think that is going to be a major boost because Jensen also not what he can do physically on the field, but what he's going to do mentally to assist
Morale.
his linemen. Can you imagine? Hainsey's going to go
Yeah.
back to playing his natural position, and he's nasty. He brings toughness, and I'm glad you brought up Michael Parsons. I'm not going to give you my opinion just yet, but I want to ask you this question, and we can talk about this later on in the evening. But let me ask you this: mentally and emotionally, do you feel that Parsons has jumped to that greatness status yet mentally and emotionally?
I think he's there, but not just yet, right? Like I think it's just all a matter of turning on a switch for him. He's always had that throughout college, like just that dog mentality, right? Like he eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Maybe that's not necessarily the case in the NFL, right? Some people play for the money, right? To take care of
Yeah.
their family and they just take a paycheck. And he does both, right? Financially, but for the love of the game. Mentally, I think he's a little immature still, just he's young, but he's young. We can't forget that. But once he figures that out and he can flip that switch on, I mean, he's going to be unbelievable. He already is, right? I mean, he's going to go down as one of the greatest. I think that's a bold prediction this early in his career, but look at his statistics, right? They don't lie. The numbers are already there. So not yet, but he's on the right trajectory to get there.
I'm so glad you said that. You said the key word. Thank you for that, Candace. You said immature because
Yes.
I played the game as well. Now I'm not at that level, but still playing it and knowing it all around my life and also coaching it. He has to grow up and he has to do it fast. The reason why I say that a lot of things get in his way mentally, and he has a big ego. And if he's not careful, that is what's going to keep him from taking to that next level. I'm sure you remember the first game when they played us and Fournette, put him on his backside.
Sure. Yeah. He
And
tore it up. Yeah.
yes, and the simple fact that he complained about that to social media as a football guy who's played the game. I played running back before, even just playing pickup football. I've gotten knocked on my backside plenty of times. The most important thing you have to have is amnesia, and you go and
Right.
make the next play and do and not just to play for yourself, but play for the team. That is the only thing that is keeping Micah from getting there, because every time when he has a problem, it's not always necessary to go to social media or explain yourself. Just play. And
I would agree, but also to his defense, he's a younger player in the league. And look at, I mean, even the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? For instance, TikToking, right? I mean, the older generation can't stand it. So it's almost like it's part of their culture, right? Maybe, you know, we're a little bit older than them. We wouldn't put things on social media. So that might just be what they're used to his defense. But again, I do think he's still immature with his mindset, some of the things that he says, but you also have to take that into account, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
Culture, it's a different culture, right? I know a lot of people with Mike Tomlin up here in Pittsburgh, they don't like him, but he's part of the younger culture. He gets, he's not older like Bill Belichick, right? He's younger, and he somehow connects with those younger players, and he's in the locker room dancing. So again, to his defense, but not inexcusable for the maturity level.
Oh yeah, no, and one thing that for the most part that Tomlin can do, and this is something that all coaches do, no matter what generation, is accountability. So if I'm a Tomlin guy, coach, okay, if you want to get on TikTok, that is fine. But if you lose, you got to be able to take it as well. See, that's the Parsons that I want to go, okay, you were willing to get on the Skip Bayless show and talk if y'all win, but when you lose, now you want to complain.
Sore loser.
And then certain things, let's be real. Statistically, you are correct. But this year, the way that he was going, I'm like, there was a lot of guys who played better. And if you want to talk about someone who has statistics and got railroaded, let's look at Shaq Barrett. Remember that year he had 19 and a half sacks?
Yep.
That was Defensive Player of the Year, but he didn't get it. So Micah has to understand, you are a Cowboy, but you cannot always think you're going to be to the expectations of the fans and the media. Be to yourself, because that's how a lot of Cowboy talent loses, because they so want to be, they validate themselves through media talk. So I think if Parsons has the talent, absolutely. But he has got to also, the Cowboys, this is another thing. If they don't play as a unit today, they're going to lose. Now, let me ask you this. As a defensive unit, who would you rather have, the Cowboys defense or the Bucs defense as a unit?
I think given tonight, just based off of health, you got to be healthy, right? I mean, I hit on it a little bit earlier that the Cowboys are down a little bit. I think 2 cornerbacks, right? The Bucs they're healthy. They're ready to go. They carried this team all season, even though it was really ugly. It was up and down. I mean, but it's back to the basics. So I think as far as tonight goes, I'm riding with the Bucs. Some people might not, but you know, I'm into paper, right? I like to see what, you know, they're healthy, and that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, you can't win playoff games if you don't have able bodies on the field, if you don't have your experienced guys or your healthy guys making plays on the field. So again, that's what it's going to come down to.
Oh, you are absolutely right. Give me 3 players on the Bucs defense where you're like, you like them and they have to take advantage tonight.
I would probably honestly, I'm going with their linebacker core. Devin White, I'm a big fan of him. You know, I think if he can get them rolling early and often, man, I just don't see, you know, with the way Dak's throwing, right, with the interceptions and he's there and it's inconsistent, their run game is what they're going to turn to. And it's been rolling and it's tough to stop. But if the linebackers can get there and they can control it early, I got to pick the entire linebacker core.
Okay, so
one in particular, you know.
You got it. So basically you want Levante, Devin White.
Also with Levante, like, dude might be done, right? I mean, he's a free agent after this. You know, he said earlier in the year he's happy, he's healthy, he's taking it year by year. He just, you know, welcomed a new baby into his family not too long ago. I mean, he's playing for, you know, his football. I mean, really, his football career, we don't know where he's going to go from here. Is it going to be with the Bucs? We don't know. So I think they're going to play with a little bit of chip on their shoulder, knowing that this locker room's going to be a lot different going into next season.
I tell you what, Bucs win a Super Bowl, and I'm speaking that to his existence. Well, he'll be back because he's going to want to finish it here. And that means, I'll tell you this, if the Bucs win a Super Bowl, there'll be a lot of faces that will stay, a lot of reconstructed contracts. But you are right, though. when it comes to the linebacking core. I'm also dependent on Devin. But what I want Bowles to do though, the way that the Cowboys use Parsons, let's do that with Devin. I
Yeah.
don't know. Do I think that I think when it comes to athleticism, Devin and Parsons are tied because
Right.
Evans is a fast guy. You put him on the edge, you can't tell me a quarterback is not going to go, oh, whoa, wait a minute. 45. Hold on. Who got 45?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all know his weaknesses is the coverage. He gets lost in the sauce, and that's something that Levante hopefully is going to help him with. But my guy that I really want to really just wreak havoc tonight, just because it will help stop the run and make them one-dimensional, is Vita Vea. If
Ooh,
Vita
okay.
Vea can command doubles all the time, that means Hicks will have something. Golston,
Sure.
that's the key, because that's the one thing that the Bucs are going to have to be careful of, because we don't have a premier pass rusher anymore, losing Barrett.
Correct. Yeah.
So we have to stop that run. So when Dak does go in for passes, we want him to just
Yeah.
lay an egg again.
Yeah. Yeah. Is Vita? He's listed as to go
Yes,
tonight? Okay.
he's gonna be playing. And another guy that I want, and I know a lot of people are gonna be leaning on Carlton Davis. I actually want Sean Murphy Bunton to
Okay.
turn back into the 2020 playoff guy, because
Okay.
as we know, CeeDee Lamb does a lot of damage in the slot.
Sure.
If I'm Bowles, you're and our other co-host, you'll talk to him later. His name is Slick. He said something very brilliant. You put Sean Murphy Bunting in jam CeeDee Lamb, but you help him with a safety over top. So just in case he gets beat,
Sure.
they got his back. So those are my guys. I'm not worried about the
Bringing
line.
it back to the 2020 team. I mean, and that's
Yeah,
that's what carried them that entire season.
that's right.
The pieces are there. They really are there. Just for whatever reason, they could not get on the same page. I think tonight they're playing for a lot. Obviously, they're playing for the season, but a lot of these guys, we don't know the future, if they're going to be Buccaneers, if they're going somewhere else. So I like to think with the experience in the locker room, right? I mean, they're going to say, "Hey, man, like." Yeah, we had none of the losing record does not matter, right? It's 0-0 at this point. So I think the cohesiveness, we're going to see that tonight.
I agree with you, and this will be the first time now, in my personal opinion. We talk about this another time, hopefully, but in my opinion, coaching was not on the same page enough as the players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you'll find out later on my true feeling for Byron. I think a lot of times you can't always go to the conservative plays. You have to use what gets your offense going the best. And I am a firm believer that the Bucs were built for passing.
Yeah.
Utilize all the receiving core you have. I feel like this season, the reason why our offense didn't get off as well is because of predictability.
Yeah.
When the team knows your plays and you don't adjust it. So let me ask you that: who were you more frustrated with this season, the players or the coaching staff?
I would probably say a little bit of both. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors as far as attitude and chemistry and things like that. But I mean, you definitely can tell. You can tell since, Bruce Arians was gone. Just there's almost like a disconnect, right? I mean, again, I can't speak for what's going on in the locker room, but I just think there was maybe a disconnect, especially, and it's strange to say because Leftwich has been around with his offensive play calling, but I think a little bit of both. I mean, when you got a veteran quarterback, I mean, quite literally the greatest all time. Come on, we already know that. Sometimes you just got to let him ride with it.
Yeah.
If he sees something out there, and again, I don't know if there's situations where Brady's like, hey, like, no, I like this better. We switch it up, and I'm sure it's probably like that, but I just think it's a little bit of both. I think they were really conservative, and you saw them let it fly right against Carolina, and I mean, it was unbelievable. It was fun. It was so fun to watch. And when things are fun like that, it's just contagious and you can start stacking wins, right?
Mhm. No, you are absolutely right. And I want to kind of not jump off completely different, but we want to know more about you, Miss Candace. So let me ask you this: what was your first experience when you came down here and did your pieces for the Buccaneers? Can you tell us what was that experience like?
Things were quiet. You go in every weekend knowing that the Bucs are most likely going to lose, right? There was no fire, there was no excitement. I can remember, you know, the stadium was filled with whatever the opposing team was, right? I mean, there was no Buccaneer fans. And Tampa's such a transplant area. So when people move there from New York, right, or Chicago or whatever the case may be, their true allegiance is with their hometown.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how it was back in 2015, 2016, 2017 seasons. You would fill the stands based on what team was coming to town. And that's, what jerseys were on. I think when Brady kind of revived it, he did revive it, right? Gronkowski. And now that's why I say, Pittsburgh was always my top, right? And, the Bucs, I loved them because I worked for them. I had investment in them. But once they came, I mean, it was like, nah, they're right up here with the Steelers for me now, right? It was like there's a winning culture. People are excited in this city, and they just didn't have that. So I think it was really quiet. They were expected to lose, right? Especially when Lovie Smith was there. I mean, we know how that went down. So quiet. This is a word that I can just really use to explain that.
Quiet. Okay. And you don't have to give us players, but what was, if you had to sum it up in a few words, give me the mentality of the players of that time.
Let's get in there and go home. You got the sense of, we just do this because we have to. We just do this because we want money and to provide for our family, and we want to go home. It was like that in training camp. Again, this is an outsider view. I mean, I wasn't on the sideline, but, I played college basketball, both D1, both D2. I like to say that, I have a sense of a feel for, athletes and what's going on. But again, that changes. That changes when you have a great player in your franchise. That's like, I'm there early. Like, look at Kobe, right? I mean, how Kobe was with the Lakers. He's there earlier and he stays late, and then other teammates around him they do the same thing. And I think that's what Brady offered that the Bucs were missing. And we don't know what his future is going to be, right? We're going to find out soon with the Bucs franchise, but I think that culture can live on. With or without him, it can live on, because once you see a little bit of it, right? Once you get a little taste of what winning is like, what ingredients go into it and what you have to carry out.
I agree. And I'm glad you brought basketball up. What was your position?
Okay. So when I was D1, I played point guard. I'm short, 5'7", but I'm also a shooter. I'm a lefty. So, a D1, you got to have some of the height, right, to get the shot off. So I had to quicken my release. When I went D2 at Tampa and finished up there, I did 1, 2, and 3, basically, because it's different, right, with size, with different levels.
Wow. So you played basically a point guard. You basically played the quarterback position of the squad.
Yeah. It's, growing up, I was a big slasher, right? I'd catch you backdoor all the time. I loved to, set the screens and come off of them, things like that. And I just understood the game really well, and then you got to play to your size, just like any sport. So my size, Division I, I'm small, I'm smaller than most of those girls, not only, but like thickness too, right? I mean, strength. So playing point guard, and then, tore my ACL and had a rehab, all that stuff, and finished up at Tampa, which is, a hell of a program. I mean, the girls team is rocking right now. There's probably not a season where they're ranked not in the top 25. And I always say too, and this is kind of my plug with UT athletics in the Tampa Bay area, they get overshadowed because you got all these sports teams, right? And then you got USF, which they could beat them. I always say they don't schedule us because they know we'll beat them.
No, I hear you. No, and I wanted to ask you, were you the type of player that did you lead by example, or did you were you the rah person, or were you a combination of both?
No, I'm lead by example with everything I do, from my work ethic to the way I performed in academics. I'm quiet. I'm a lot of, really quiet. If you were to ask former coworkers, they'd probably say, nah, she just comes in, does her work, does it really well, and goes home, and it's not to say, hey, I don't want to sit and make small talk, but there's a purpose for everything that I do. And that's, again, from studying, great athletes, right? I mean, not to say that I mirrored my game and things after them, but I tried, right?
Absolutely.
And again, that goes back to Brady in that locker room, whether he's there or not next year, those players are going to know what the winning work ethic takes.
No, and that's why I asked, because you're a competitor, so you probably just like Brady and them, you came in there with the accountability and expectations of, hey, we're gonna do our best. Um, did you ever that is that how you felt that your team was on both sides, where when y'all came in, it was like, hey, we got a job to do and we're gonna make the best of it. We're not just gonna do this to go home. We wanna actually win. Did
Yeah, I
you
mean,
ever have that?
there's always players that just want to do the least amount of work as possible and go
Yeah,
home. And some can get by with it based off of their athleticism, right?
yeah,
Sometimes that's not the case. You got to have more guys, more women that are willing to overachieve and do more, right? Enough is never enough. You got to have enough people that buy into that mindset in order to have a winning season. We had 7 Division 1 girls, which is
wow,
insane for a Division 2 school. A ton of talent. Some bought in, some didn't. I think we underachieved at my time at UT. I think we should have won a national championship. We fell short a couple years, but again, it goes down to buying in. But also, as we mentioned, it starts from the coaching staff, right? So,
mhm.
like, if the coaching staff aren't all on the same page, like the players aren't going to be. And
Yeah.
that could very well what has been the issue with the Bucs all season.
I know it has. I know I'm not
Yeah,
in there like you, but I'm a person that I study, as a history major. I went to Liberty. Side note, like you, the women at our school basketball, I went to school with. Are you familiar with the Avery Worley Talbot?
I'm not sure. It just depends what year.
She played well, she went to Liberty and she played with the triplets, and they were always good, but
Yeah,
because the coaches, they held each other accountable, and a lot of them went pro, and I'm
good
very
stuff.
proud of them. But yeah, I think it starts with coaching. You have to bring the best out of your players. You have to utilize them to the best of their abilities. Most importantly, you have to believe in them. Now, when you were there, and you don't have to tell, like, whatever era, you give me an era where you felt um and you don't have to say the coaches, it could just be your first, second, third, fourth year.
Sure.
Give me an era where you felt, wow, this coach doesn't even believe in his players. What era, what year did you feel like you said, man, they don't even believe in each other?
I don't think I can say that at the University of Tampa. I can't speak great, well enough about that program. It's a smaller staff, right? It's Division 2, so you don't have, 6, 7 coaches like you do at Division 1 sitting on the bench. I think everybody was on the same page.
Mhm.
Um, as far as maybe another school, because I did bounce around quite a few times. I went to Akron, went to Delaware, and I came from teams with winning programs. I don't necessarily think you see that, on a college level. At least I haven't. I mean, I'm sure you do, but it's a business. Like these coaches know if they don't win, like they're losing their job. I think you are going to see that more so on a high school level, right? I mean, coaches that just kind of blow off players for whatever reason.
Yeah,
But college, the best players play.
yeah.
These coaches know if like you're not putting up W's, like you're out of here.
Mhm.
So from my experience, I haven't really seen that much from the teams that I was on.
Gotcha. So would you consider yourself a defender or a scorer?
Mm, I'm a lefty, so I definitely can shoot lights out. I'm not gonna lie. My 3-point ball is pretty mean. I love defense. I love defense because defense is really a choice, right? It's a choice
Yep.
of hustle, like heart, grit, like diving on the floor for the loose ball, locking up their best player, trying to get a steal, hustling your ass off. Defense is a choice. Like you don't need to have the best skill or the best athleticism to be good at defense, right? I mean, so I always like to say defense, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, I, I would love to lock up a player. Like that's just the competitor in me. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna say defense with that one.
Were you a trash talker?
High school, I think. No, high school I was. College, they're so good, right? I mean, you're playing
Right.
against the best. It's like 2% of people go on to play in college. Like you're playing with the best of them, and it's less than 1% go on to play pro. So, wherever you think you're gonna talk some smack, there's someone better than you on the other side of the court.
Oh, I agree 100%. I knew my calling was for football, like once, because I got an uncle he's 5'7", but basically he was dunking
Sheesh, got
in his
some bounce.
yeah, in his peak position. We played basketball together when I was a kid, 12 years old. We went undefeated. We were so good. We had to play the 13 and 14-year-olds. But I knew from then he's the star. Let me just go to football because
Yeah.
I'm a stocky guy. And yeah, you're right. Basketball was like that level where I was like, oh God, I don't have it. I'm just gonna play. But even with football, I got humbled very quickly because I'm a strong guy,
Yeah.
very, very strong. But my speed is okay. But you have guys out there that I was like, whoa,
Right.
like I'm
Right. Yeah.
addicted.
And they'll humble you really fast. I think, if you're at a great level, then
Yeah,
sure, run your mouth if you can back it up. But
yeah.
that stuff's just bulletin board material, right? I mean, you play another team that's in your conference, you're running your mouth, whether it's social media or whatever. I mean, that
Mhm.
just gives them more of an edge to go out and, I mean,
And embarrass
take
you.
your tail. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the same question that I asked about, when you at UT, what about when you were at with the Bucks facility? Was there ever a year that you were there when you saw the coach and said, "Well, damn, do you believe in your players or not, or are you more afraid of the other team?"
Again, I think when I worked with the Bucks, and I hate to use the word like soft because nobody in the NFL is soft, right? I mean, they're the best athletes in the world. Again, it was quiet. I could tell you from my previous experience, and I don't want to bring up Pittsburgh often, but I interned with the Pittsburgh Penguins the
Mhm.
year that they won back-to-back Stanley Cups, right? And I
Yeah.
can remember when I interned one summer, I had to run stats into the locker room, in between the periods.
Yeah.
And, Pittsburgh they were expected to win, right? It was actually with the Tampa Bay Lightning Easter Conference Finals down to game 7. And, I'm like handing in the locker room and coach was just lighting these grown men up. Like it was so intense. Like you can cut a knife right through the
Right.
intensity of the air. I don't, from my perspective, I didn't see that in the Bucks locker room at that time. Mainly maybe because I didn't have access to it like that, right? I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like the morale was just down,
Mhm.
always down.
Right.
Um, s
Right.
Then when the other teams came in, right, I mean, they were blowing the Bucks out. I think they finished, what, with 5 wins? I mean, it was it was so ridiculous back then. But again, all love for that organization. They really got my start in the NFL with just being around, the franchise and the players and getting that experience that I needed.
No, I understand, and I'm glad that you say nobody's soft, but sometimes when we use the word soft, it doesn't have to be from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint.
Yeah,
Because yes, if you come in there defeated, then you will be defeated. And I
right.
think at that time, especially for me personally, when I saw in the Lovey Smith, I s- I saw confusion, being
Yes.
lost,
Yes.
not guided. Do you
Yes.
feel the same?
Yeah, I would say the same. Even with press conferences afterwards, it was the same thing every time. It was like you just hit record, press play, hit record, press play. That's what we were hearing. That's when Jameis was around too, right? I mean, it's like, oh, I got to get better. I need to get better. And it's like, okay, well, do it. Right. I mean, like you come in and week out, you guys are saying the same things, but you're not putting action into what you're saying. So yeah, I can see the confusion aspect of that for sure.
Yeah, well, I understand and thank you. And so because I'm sure you have other things, and we're gonna get ready to wrap things up. But I want you to just tell us first off where people can find you. What are your plans for future? Things that you're going to be doing. Please let everybody know. Let the world know.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you know, but I went viral on Instagram back in September. Went from like 2,000 followers to over 200 and like 20,000 followers in like 3 weeks. So it's been a wild ride, which is a big reason why I shifted to social media and I left local television. But find me in Twitter, TikTok at Candace Martino, Instagram, Facebook page at Candace Martino TV. I really embrace engagement. That's something that, we lack in local television. So, let's have these conversations, please. I'm excited for them. We've had some great conversations over the last few months or so. As for plans, I want to keep building on social media, specifically, with my channel. I just released a podcast, the Candace Martino Show. It's a little different, right? I think it's really going to test my on-air personality. You're coming from local television, which is a very traditional way of thinking. It limits creativity, opinions, hot takes. So that's something I'm going to grow into. right? As I get more into my podcast. So that's kind of where I'm at. And, looking forward to maybe doing some more work with you guys.
Yes. I was going to say, please let us get on there as
Yeah.
well. I would love to do that. And thank you so much. And thank you for giving us your great output. You really hit a lot of things on the head, and you gave us a lot more insight. And, tonight we hope to speak to you again, because by then I'm
Yeah,
going to get,
absolutely. We'll be getting ready for game time.
yeah,
So
that'll be in
let's do
my
it.
turn up mode by then. So I'm going to be, the more hours go by, the more amped I am.
Me
But
too.
again, thank you for your time. And, we will see you tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. See you later.
See you later. So there you have it, guys. Miss Candace Martino again. Please follow her. As you can see, she's really good. She knows the game very well, and it's sometimes it is really good to get experience from to learn from another winning organization, because you can copy that. And the most important thing that I always see in winning organizations is accountability and belief. When you have both of those, your team is going to go nothing but up, because now you hold everybody, your fellow player and teammate, accountable for their actions. And then when you believe, hey, we can do this. I know this other team might look like they're good, but we don't worry about that. We believe in each other. That's why when I use the word unit, when you are a unit, that means everybody is there for each other. There is no selfishness. That means people are going to be ready. And that's what I feel that's going to happen tonight. The Bucs are going to be more of a unit, especially on defense. All those players, they might not be the biggest names outside of Levante David, Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield, but Carlton Davis can play. Jamel Dean can play. William Golston can play. Let's go to the offensive side. We know about Evans, Godwin, and Julio. Otten can play. We know about Fournette. Rashad White can play. These guys have what it takes, and they're gonna make it happen. So I'm saving that energy for later on this evening. We'll be on at 7. Candace Martino will be joining us again. So you're gonna see a whole more turned up AJ turn up here for the Bucs report. I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And just for right now, get yourself ready. So as soon as the afternoons come on, get a good big meal. So for everybody out there, you get your drink on, because I know I am. I'm gonna get my turn up going for this team. And we will see you guys later on tonight. Until then, go Bucs. We will talk to you guys later on this evening.